Hello friend, it is Ron from CamMastery.com, where you can go to learn how to make great videos with Camtasia. You are joining me with a Cam Answers Live, which is just me answering Camtasia questions, providing Camtasia answers to you live. I try to do this just about every Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern when I can. Last weekend I had a family commitment, wasn't there for that. That's okay. So today what I want to do is talk about a few different things. So number one, the first question is about browser history, how we hide that browser history. Number two is about having a double cursor whenever recording. And number three, circular links. So how do we get videos to point to videos that point back to the previous video? So if you have questions that you'd like me to answer live, please type those into the chat now, and I'll be happy to check those at the end. But until then, let's talk about these three questions. So the first one is, and I know this is kind of small, maybe I can blow this up and make it a little easier for you. A question about good software training in general. When I record my screen to show navigating somewhere on Chrome, my history drops down. And of course, we want to keep our history. We know Nancy is saying here that she could eliminate everything, but doesn't want to have to do that if she doesn't have to. So there are a few options for Nancy or for you whenever you have a browser showing the history whenever you're typing something into the address bar. So the first thing that she says is, can I blur that out? Sure, you can absolutely blur that out. That's one of the options that I have used in the past if I want to make sure that I have everything recorded. Another thing that I'll do is I will just cut to the end result. So I have a recording here on the screen. I can just show you quickly if I find the right button. There we go. That should take us right there. So here is a recording I have where I was here in my browser. And you know what? I'll zoom up here to the top so you can see what happens. I'm going to play through this, and you can see as I play through, at least I think I'm playing. Yep, it's moving. And I'm going to type in, and as I type the first character, so I just typed the letter A, and I paused here, and then you see all these different things, and you're like, what's Ron doing? What are these? We have Amazon and Growth Tools Accelerator. What's that? And Google Analytics. Okay. All right, what else is happening? So then I'll hit spacebar to play through again, and then I'll type the second character, which is an M, and you say, oh, he's going to Amazon. Wait, or is he going to Amy Porterfield's site, or is he doing something else? So what's happening here, as Nancy's asking the question is, as we begin to type, it can be distracting to people who are viewing. So people will pause, and I've done this myself. I'm like, what's in their browser history? What's going on there? So one option for this is to create a completely separate account in your browser for recording. So if you're not familiar, you can use Chrome, and she said she's specifically using Chrome. I was using Edge to use this, both based on a similar architecture. And you can create a new user by going to the upper right and just creating a new account. So what you can do is when you have that new account, everything is completely separate. One of Nancy's concerns was if I delete all of my browser history, then I don't have anything for myself. So when you create a separate account, it really is like two different people, two different browsers entirely. So you have all of the things that you go to, your Amazons and everything else that you have, your passwords, it remembers everything for that account, and then a completely separate account for recording. So you might just create a recording account, which doesn't have your browser history, which only has whatever you want it to remember. So that's probably the best way to go about doing this is have that separate account. Another thing that I'll do is I like to use my browser history when typing in addresses. So how do we use that and still do things in Camtasia? So let me cut back over to Camtasia. And what I'll do is when I'm going somewhere, like if I'm going to TechSmith, I type the T, then I say, people will want to see all this other information. I say, no, I don't want them to see that. I just want to jump right to the TechSmith site. What I'll do is I'll find right where the site loads. So I'm going to move my playhead here to the right until techsmith.com comes up right there. So what I'm going to do is come down here, and basically all this time, assuming that I'm talking or saying something in this time period, I don't want them to see anything that's being typed here at this point. All right, so for this entire duration. So what I'm going to do is bring my playhead here to where I want this to be. And I'm going to type S to do a split. Of course, if you're on a Mac, you'll need to use another keystroke combination that's Command T to do a split. But here in Windows, I'm using S to do a split. And then in the PC world, I'm going to zoom in down here at the bottom so you can see. I'm going to hold down the Alt key, or in the Mac world, it's the Option key. And when I do that and bring my cursor here to the beginning, I see that it's going to extend a frame. And so this way, I'm going to take this frame, this TechSmith site, and extend it all the way to the beginning of what I want to talk about. All right. So, and then I'll just basically drop this back in here. So let me zoom back out and show you what's going to happen when I play through this. So I open up, I start at this point perhaps. Let me just go ahead and delete. I'll just Control X everything before this. So if I'm showing my browser, I'll say, you'll want to go to the techsmith.com site, and I bring it up here. All the audio that's underneath here in the recording is still being transmitted, but people only see the techsmith.com site, and then whenever I'm done with that, it continues on with whatever I need to do in TechSmith site. So it pops that up, and whatever else I need to go to, if I need to go to Camtasia or whatever, it's still all recorded there. So that's the first way that I would, or those are a couple of ways I would address the issue of having browser history cropping up. One, create a separate account, or two, I guess two, blur it out is one option. But then three, the one I prefer, is just to cut, just to freeze a frame whenever it's done and extend that frame for as long as is needed. So our second question is about a double cursor. So it happens when this person and many people use the magnifier in Windows, that it creates a double cursor in the recording. And I was actually able to capture that. If I jump back over here, when I go to this video, and I'm going to zoom in here to the top, right now, I don't even think you can see the cursor just yet. So I'm going to hit play, and you can see the cursor, and you say, yep, there's the cursor. I see it. It's no problem. It's moving around, and everything's fine. I can click on Camtasia if I want to. So then I'm going to pause it here for a moment. I'm going to open the magnifier, and the magnifier can be opened on the Windows computer by using the Windows key and the plus sign. So I use Windows and plus, and then that zooms in. So you can see right here that it zoomed in on my screen. And if you notice, now of course I've paused it here, that there are really two mouse cursors right on top of each other. And this will become a little more obvious if I go back to my presentation or my recording and I hit play. Now notice, you see that how they got out of sync. So as I'm moving from one side to the other, I really have two cursors. I have this one, and then I have this one. And so that's really what this question is about, saying, how do I fix this? What do I do about this double cursor problem? So this is something that Camtasia, or I should say TechSmith, is aware of. And there's a relatively easy fix for this. To explain what's happening, we have, when Camtasia is recording, it's really recording two things when it's recording your screen, just your screen. It's capturing the screen itself, but then it's also capturing the cursor as two separate items. And we know that these are separate because we have the ability to go in and actually manipulate the cursor a little bit. We can make it larger or smaller. We can make it fade in or fade out. So we know that that's like a separate track almost. We can't see that track by itself. We can't change, we can't do a lot of things with that track, but we know that we can change the cursor properties. So let's jump back over to Camtasia. And when I look at this presentation, when I look at this screen recording, I know that I have these cursor effects in the upper right. So if I zoom here to the upper right, I see that I have the scale. If I wanted to, I could make my cursor larger. So let's just do that. Now notice when I'm doing that it's only making one cursor larger. Now, why is that? Well, again, the recording is really recording the video of what's happening in the background and the cursor. So the thing that Camtasia captured was that cursor, and it's saying I can make that bigger or smaller, and again I can fade it in and out, and that's what we're going to do to fix this. What was in the background was Windows showing you, like giving it a separate display, and Windows was recording the cursor as well. So, or the Windows was displaying the cursor as well, and Camtasia captured that as a part of the background. So what we're going to do is go back to Camtasia, and if I just look up here to the upper right, what I want to do is just drag this opacity down to a smaller number. So watch, I'll just drag it down halfway. And when I drag it down halfway, then that cursor is almost gone. And if I drag it all the way down, that second cursor is completely gone. And so now as I work through this, I see the cursor, I zoom in, I have one cursor, I still have one cursor, I still have one cursor the whole time. If I bring this opacity back up, then I have the double cursor where it's Camtasia has captured the cursor and the Windows cursor there in the background as well. So the quick fix there is just drop that opacity down and you should be good to go. So that should be it. So now let's look at our last question, or our third question. And this one is a bit of a long one. And the essence of the question is, I want to have a video, and at the end of the video, point to another video. And I want that video at the end to point to the first video. So how do I get it so that both of these videos basically point to each other? So there are ways to do this. The question was specifically about screencast, using screencast.com. If you're not familiar, TechSmith makes available to us a free account, or we can create a free account at screencast.com where we can host up to, I think it's a gig worth of videos. So we can, if we need to, have a place for hosting videos on screencast.com. And there, the nice thing about screencast.com is that number one, it's free. And number two, you can build in interactivity and things like that with your video, meaning if you have hotspots. So you can use those hotspots on screencast.com. It will be able to, if you put like a link in a part of the window instead of the whole window, if somebody goes over there and clicks that, that's a link to whatever it is you want them to go to. So we can't do something like that in YouTube or Vimeo or Wistia, but we can at screencast.com. So the purest question is, can I do this with screencast.com? The true answer is no. And the same thing with YouTube. As soon as you upload a new screencast video, or as soon as you upload a new YouTube video, you get a new URL. You get a new address for that video. So if we uploaded video A and said, oh, we're going to point to video B, let's upload video B and get that URL. Okay, well now I need to go back and have that point to video A. That's fine. As soon as I have that new video, that location for video B, I have to re-record video A so that it points to the new video B. But since I did that, now the pointer to video B points to a new video that doesn't exist. Anyway, it can't be done, like I said, with YouTube or with Screencast. However, you can go over to, if you have any kind of self-hosting, you can use that. So let me jump over to my self-hosting. Where did I put that? My self-hosting is not on that screen. And, here it is. So I use Amazon S3. Oh, and you weren't looking at my screen yet, so you didn't see anything. So let's go over, let me show you my screen real quick. So if I go over to Amazon S3, you can see that I have a specific bucket called Cam Answers. And in that Cam Answers bucket, I have a folder called C2020. And what I've done is I've uploaded a lot of these Camtasia 2020 videos, different things that I teach on in Camtasia 2020. And what's nice about these is that each of these has its own URL that doesn't change. So what I can do is say, here's presets v2. If I just right click it, I can get its properties here and find the object URL. All right, so this is the URL for that file. As long as, and here's the important thing, as long as the file name doesn't change, then the link is good. So I could have version 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever. As long as I keep the file name the same, I can upload that new video as many times as I want. So I could have a version for 2019 and a version for, halfway through 2019 and another version for 2020. As long as the file name's the same, that link is the same. So if you are self-hosting, you can record a video, post it to something like S3, or you could use, I was going to say you could use Google Drive. Now that I think about it, Google Drive does change things whenever you update them. Wow, I wasn't planning on going to Google Drive, so let me back up a little bit. There is a way in Google Drive, if you upload with the same file name, it will keep a different version. I'm pretty sure it keeps the same link as well, and it just keeps different versions of the file. Not 100%, but I'm like 99% sure that will work with Google Drive as well. But I know that it works for sure with Amazon S3, so that's what I want to talk about here. So with Amazon S3, I upload this video. So let's say, what did I call this video here? This was presets. It's video 6. So I would record video 6. I would have the link. Then I would upload video 7 and say, go to this link. Here's the link for video 7, or in video 7 for video 6. I keep it the same. Then I go back to video 6 and I say, here's the link for video 7, which I have, and re-upload it to S3. Everything is fine. All the links stay the same. At the end of video 1, I have a link to video 2. At the end of video 2, I have a link to video 1, and everything is fine. One other thing that I would do if I was using YouTube is I would say, check the description below for that link. Or if it was on a self-hosted site or something like that, I would say, look at the description below for a link to video 1 or video 2. That's going to be the easiest and fastest way for you to be able to reference multiple videos in the same, like in a loop. If you want to say video 1 points to video 2 and video 2 points to video 1, then just say you'll find a link to that video in the description, in the area below, in the whatever you have, wherever you're uploading it. There's always a place for you to type something. I think there's always a place. I can't think of any hosting platform that doesn't have that. There should be a place for people to type in information. And so all you need to do is say, look below for that video. Then if it's not burned into your video, you're fine. You can change it as many times as you want. So those are the questions that I wanted to answer today. I'm going to jump over quickly just to check and see if you have questions. If you have questions, go ahead and throw those in real quick. And as I jump over and look, my chat isn't even being shown. So if you had a question and you typed it in, I wouldn't even see it because it's not showing me on my screen. And I'm not even sure why. So that's kind of stinky. But so sorry if I don't see your chat. I apologize for that. Wow. Every other time I do this, the chat is just right there and I can see it without any problem. And this time it's not there. And, that's part of the fun of doing a live video like this, is that you never know what's going to pop up. Or what kind of crazy things are going to happen. So I will check after this. I will answer your questions, I promise. If you did put something in the chat, I'll do my best to answer that. Thank you very much for joining me. I hope this has been helpful to you. If you have questions, I'll try and figure out the chat thing so that it works in next week's stream. But until then, if I can help you, reach out, let me know, leave a comment, and I'll do my best to help you out. Thanks for joining me. So long.